So, right, so we're being recorded then. So, I don't know if everybody listening is from Hull. I imagine a lot of you will be. So, as Sarah said, you know, I've been asked to talk about the risks, really, of sleep apnea and other forms of sleep disordered breathing, which really does raise during the menopause. I'm not a menopause expert by any means. Sorry? Sorry, I thought someone was speaking. Yeah.
There's so much glass. I feel like a plant in a green.
Right. Sorry,
Kath. Sorry,
okay.
Kath. I think someone's been unmuting themselves, so that's why there was a bit of background noise. So
right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
so
I wasn't sure if they were talking to me.
No, that's all right.
Okay, yeah. So right, so yeah, so because there is a high risk of sleep apnea with the menopause, you know, we come across a lot of ladies who they actually probably have had sleep apnea for many years, but it gets worse during the menopause, and that's often when they do get diagnosed. So to start off, I've done a PowerPoint, and if anyone does want it later, you know, they're very welcome to a copy. And if you just contact either Sarah or us at the charity. So you are what you eat. Don't we hear that a real lot? But we would actually follow that with us. Just as importantly, you are how you sleep. You know, so many people just don't realise that I've just got a frog. Can I just try and clear it? That's it. I got a bit cold. Not COVID, by the way. You know, that how you sleep, you know, all of us, and this is, you know, people who are struggling with menopausal problems as well, night sweats, you know, insomnia, all these things, you know, will affect how you feel during the day. So, you know, if people just don't realise the importance of good sleep, although, you know, there are a lot of websites now coming up with a lot of people, you know, talking about sleep, helping people with sleep, because they've ignored it for so many years. It's almost like one of those things that we have to do it, so let's get on with it. You know, we'll manage with 6 hours, but you actually won't, because it'll affect you long term. Cognitively, depression. We certainly didn't use the sleep deprivation, something of the word there, in the war for no reason. You know, it really, really does affect us. And my life certainly changed, you know, once I started getting proper sleep. So, sleep disordered breathing, you know, covers a few different things, really. So we've got obstructive sleep apnea, which is known as OSA. That is a really, really common condition, and we are talking about 9 million people in the UK alone. I think it's 236 million worldwide. Central sleep apnea still means sleep apnea, but with obstructive, it's where you know, literally, and this is where the menopause comes in, where there are obstructions in the neck, you know, large tonsils or whatever, causing the obstruction. And it obviously means that you're stopping breathing during your sleep, but you're totally unaware of this. But central sleep apnea is a different cause. And this is where the brain forgets to tell the person to breathe. And that is linked to other medical conditions and even medication. That's not really what we're here to talk about tonight. But the other two things that are quite very common is upper airways resistance syndrome, which is quite similar to sleep apnea, but it doesn't show as a diagnosis. So we often have to help people a lot harder with that when it's not straightforward upper airways resistance syndrome. Snoring is linked with upper airways resistance syndrome to a small degree, mixed sleep apnea, which is just a mixture of obstructive and central, and obstructive sleep apnea, really. So, you know, like I say, I was the classic snorer. Got laughed about it all my life, laughed myself. It's just now we know that it isn't a laughing matter. So here's the statistics anyway. For you, yes, I did that from memory. Yeah, 8 million in the United Kingdom, and you can see here these are just European countries. God bless. There's Ukraine there as well. 13 million in Ukraine, and things are going to be even worse from them for them because they won't even be sleeping at the moment. You know, with what's going on. So the causes of obstructive sleep apnea. Nasal blockages, and I have got a bit of cold, but I am quite a nasally person. You know, it could be things like deviated septum, narrow nose passages, which I'm told I've got. I did have a deviated septum, which I had to have surgery on. Congestion, allergies, and swollen turbinates. They're the little fan-like things that are right up the nose here. And what if it's a turbinates problem, obviously ENT are the expert, it tends to happen if you're sleeping on your side and one side blocks up. And then all of a sudden that side will actually unblock and the other side will block up. But, you know, if you're having any nasal issues, you know, have a look online, have a look, Dr. Stephen Parr, that's STEVEN.com. He's actually in New York, but he has lots and lots of good information on his page. The large uvula is another cause of obstructive sleep apnea, which is your dangly thing hanging down. A large neck. And this is for a lot of reasons why a lot of women weren't diagnosed with sleep apnea. And I mean, women can have large necks, but it is generally a man's thing, is that, you know, and especially with, as the next one says, obesity. But you know, the problem is, I know you can't see me, and I have got a bit of lockdown weight, but I'm usually a size 12, bottom 12, top 14. So, you know, don't think for a minute sleep apnea is just in overweight people. In fact, that's another subject, in the sense that sleep deprivation, whether it's sleep apnea or not, will actually cause weight gain. We need energy and fuel from somewhere, so let's get it from the food. Overuse of alcohol. Obviously, alcohol causes the airways to collapse a lot more. Hence, you know, when people drink too much, they usually snore that night, even if they don't snore on other nights, or it'll be worse on the night of the alcohol. Medications, again, for the same reason as alcohol, really. Things like tranquilizers, any sedating medication, again, will cause a collapse of the airways. Large tonsils and adenoids. And there was a time actually where they decided not to take out tonsils in children. At one time, we used to whip them all out, as soon as there was a problem. But then they went through a stage where we don't want to be taking these tonsils out if we can help it. And actually, sleep apnea did, you know, raise a lot in children when they stopped it, because with children, there's a very, very good chance of a cure of sleep apnea by tonsillectomy. Even though, as adults, most of us with sleep apnea don't have tonsils, but at least it helps them when they're children. The large soft palate, that's up here, that tends to drop down, and obviously a receding jaw. Because what happens is, as you go into a deep sleep, your jaw goes back and everything crowds in the air where these tonsils and the palate drops down, and this is what, you know, causes the stopping breathing. Large tongue, I've got one of them. I'm not going to show you tonight, but yeah, a large wide tongue. Smoking, yes, you know, it is linked with sleep apnea, but it's not one of the major causes, even though it gets blamed, you know, for a lot of things. It's obviously better not to smoke, and it will make things worse, but it's not really the total cause. So hereditary factors, you know, due to craniofacial issues, which we're usually born with. So lots of people like myself, I didn't get diagnosed with sleep apnea until I think I was, I don't even know how old I was actually. I think I was early 40s, and I can trace this back to childhood. So this is where the word comes from, sleep apnea. Apnea means Greek for without breath. And that's where, the condition comes. Sleep apnea is a medical condition involving stopping breathing. And it's 5 to 14 times an hour in mild cases, 15 to 30 in moderate, and 30 plus in severe. And in fact, we had a man come in for CPAP machines. Not really here to talk about the therapy today. But CPAP machines is the gold standard, and we do sell products to the charity, which is how we fund the charity, so that we can do things like this for nothing. He came in, and I don't even know if his wife might be listening, but he was actually stopping breathing 98 times an hour, and he had no idea. And I didn't either. Mine was 32 times an hour. You're not aware this is happening. That's what the problem is, which is why it goes undiagnosed for many years. So you can see this is the airflow, when people are asleep. Back sleeping will always make it worse, by the way. But the diagrams on the back to show us how a nice clear airway, I should say, and the person's breathing okay. But then, as you slip into deeper sleep, and you see how that airway is closing up, it might be the tonsils, it might be the soft palate, all the reasons I've said, and this is what happens, and the air can't get through, and this is when we stop breathing. So, if this will play, and I know every single person who watches this will actually say, oh, that's Uncle Glenn, oh, that's Auntie Mary, because this is what sleep apnea is, and we just don't realise. So you'll see the man, and he's having a nap, and he's in an upright position, which means it shouldn't be as bad as normal. So what happens is sleeping, and then he goes into a deeper sleep, and he starts to have apneas. And while he has these apneas, what's happening, which is why it's a serious medical condition, is that his heart rate's soaring and his oxygen levels are dropping. So I'll shut up now and let you hope it'll play.
See how this man's chest rises and falls while he inhales and at least may pass. Illness. Experience over and over throughout the night.
They put scary music on as well, don't they? But that is what that is what an apnea is. It's where, and you notice the man doesn't wake up. Most people having apneas don't wake up. They just get taken from REM sleep into a lighter stage of sleep, where the body, you can see the brain sends messages in the man. The brain will send in messages for his heart muscles to kickstart his breathing. A bit like internal CPR, really, to get him breathing again, but he hasn't woken up. Some people do wake up because the uvula might get trapped in their airways, but a lot of us, I certainly didn't wake up, and it was happening to me 32 times an hour. So, can I just move down? That's better. I thought this green had fun. So, the symptoms. And I know that we're here for the menopause tonight. So as we're reading the symptoms, I want you to think about the menopausal symptoms as well, and you'll see that there is a big crossover. So daytime tiredness or chronic fatigue, snoring, sudden awakenings from sleep, often with a gasp or a choking sound. Now that's what you saw in the video, you know, when as the man started, you know, and then they start breathing again. But this continues throughout the night. Night sweats, here we go. We know all about those, I'm sure. Restless sleep nightmares, insomnia, and I will pause here to say that it's thought that 70% of people with insomnia actually have sleep apnea, and it's not thought about. We're too busy trying to treat the insomnia, but a lot of that is because the apneas might wake a person and they might think, oh, I need the bathroom, not realising that it's actually an apnea that's woken them up. So there's a big crossover between insomnia. It's always wise for someone with insomnia, especially if they snore, to get tested for sleep apnea. For regular nighttime bathroom trips, there is a physical reason for that, but also what I've just said too, where you wake up and assume you need the bathroom. Had you not woken up, you wouldn't have needed it. Lack of concentration, poor work or school performance, possibly memory problems and confusion. Depression, anxiety and panic attacks, morning headaches, waking up groggy, dry mouth, sore throat and awakening, that's through the snoring, decreased sex drive, difficult to manage or worsening of diabetes, thyroid, high blood pressure and cardiac problems like AFib, angina, arrhythmia. Now, this is, you know, these are the real serious links with sleep apnea, untreated. And it will make diabetes worse. It will always, well, almost always cause high blood pressure. And in actual fact, one of the first things when people get treated for sleep apnea is that the blood pressure improves, you know, just after one night of safe sleep. And I finished on there, yeah. So, oh yeah, reflux, GERD, body aches and pains, and lots of other symptoms that are coming up all the time. So, associated conditions, these are the biggies, like I just said: heart attacks, strokes, TIAs, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, obviously driving accidents, which is due to the tiredness. Obesity, going back to obesity, you know, like I said, a lot of people start off as slim snorers. They might not end up obese, but, you know, they will have put the weight on, and it's because we all need fuel. I mean, some people are as skinny as anything and they might turn to alcohol or drugs even, whatever. We all need, if we're struggling in any way whatsoever, we all need something. So often it's the untreated sleep apnea that causes the weight gain. Anxiety and depression, hypothyroidism is another big marker. ADHD is more in children. Brain confusion, fibromyalgia, all them dreadful body aches, chronic fatigue, menopause, there it is, dementia, and I won't read them all to you because I know you can all read. So actually I will, in case there's anyone here with sight problems. So glaucoma, asthma, sleep paralysis, that's a scary one, I used to have that. Erectile dysfunction syndrome, Parkinson's, heartburn and gastro reflux. A lot of people tend to be low in vitamin D or B12 as well, who've got sleep disordered breathing. And there's always new research coming out. You know, sometimes you think, is there anything it doesn't cause? But this is where the crossover comes. And so, just a quick recap of my life. It was a long and difficult journey to my diagnosis of severe sleep apnea. It was the last thing doctors thought of. I was tested for everything under the sun, including leukemia. I used to have crash outs every 2 years, where total mental exhaustion. but I had no idea it was a sleep apnea causing it. And as you can see, my mum sadly passed away from a heart attack at age 49. It was a first heart attack. And it was only when I got diagnosed that my dad said, well, what is this sleep apnea? So I explained, he went, crumbs, that's what you mean. Well, of course, we didn't know about it. She couldn't have even been treated on the NHS anyway, because it's a long time ago now. But yes, it does run in families. And that's why when I was diagnosed, that I was determined that I was going to treat mum, because, my son was quite young, my daughter was late teens. And there was no way I was going to, with all these health risks especially. And I did struggle with anxiety. I had lots of panic attacks. I remember 10 years of my life was quite ruined really by that. I had bouts of chronic fatigue and complete mental exhaustion, and it lasted months sometimes. My doctor used to say, well, we can call this ME, or we can cause it, or we can call, this was after lots of tests, or we can call it, mental exhaustion. And back I'd go on the antidepressants, and there is a place for antidepressants. Sometimes people do need them, and they certainly help me get through the worst until I was back up on my feet. And then, of course, I was going to go careful, not take life at such a fast pace, but we all do. And then it would catch up with me again. I used to be always ill with chest infections. That immediately stopped once I was on the CPAP therapy. I needed an inhaler every day. Again, that stopped. So it was all linked, obviously. But as I say, I can, trace man right back to childhood. And I did struggle with concentration at school. The teacher used to say, when you come back into the classroom, Catherine, as I was, just daydreaming, looking back as well at my life with exams at school and even my music exam, because I was previously a music teacher to the charity, when I used to have those morning exams, I never did well. I was always better with afternoon or even late at night if it was possible, because mornings were a nightmare to me. I don't know if any of my teachers are even on here today, but I'm sorry I did lie to you all. I used to make excuse after excuse after excuse because I was always really late for work. I just couldn't get up in the morning. So, obviously, the reason I've been asked to talk here tonight is because of these dreaded hormones. And I have a history, a really bad history of PMT. Some months it would take 3 months, it would start all the anxiety, and then it would build up, to my monthly, and then that would drain me. I was just, I just wish I'd been born a man. It's really, really was hard. This was the killer, severe postnatal depression after both children. In fact, I've got a 9-year gap between my children because it was just so dreadful. And after having my second baby, I did develop, never heard of it till it happened to me, something called puerperal psychosis, but now they call it something easy to pronounce, postpartum psychosis. I don't want to talk about that. Nobody wants that. So you can imagine why I dreaded the menopause. Absolutely dreaded it. So, having said that, I went on to therapy for my sleep apnea, Of course, it's not nice sleeping with a mask every night, but what a difference it made to my life in every way, but I'm talking hormonal here. But the fact is, PMT, it was like, where is it? It actually, I won't say there was no symptoms, because there was some, but nothing like taking over my life like it did. So, and when I reached the menopause, like I said, I really had dreaded it probably about 12 years, I really dreaded that time because of my history with hormones and PMT, and obviously after having children. But you know what? It was absolutely nothing, compared to what my friends and other family have gone through. I did get heart, but not actually flushes. I remember the hairdresser once saying, "Are you going through a change because your head feels hot?" So it would be something like that, but not what you'd call flushes. I did have a bit of weight gain, but I managed to get rid of that at Slimming World, although I do need to go back since lockdown. I think a lot of us has got that extra weight on us at the moment, hasn't it? Haven't we? But I really was shocked, because I can't tell you how much I dreaded it, and I just couldn't believe I'd, got through it. I can't prove if it was because I was being treated for the sleep apnea, but all I can say, my life, absolutely changed. None of the, completely collapsing, none of the prison I was in with the panic attacks and this, because it was, for me, it was, down to the undiagnosed sleep apnea. So, why does the menopause cause or make worse sleep apnea? Well, what it is the higher levels of estrogen and progesterone. Pre-menopausal, women are protected with good muscle tone. This is obviously everywhere, but especially regarding sleep apnea in the upper airways, the throat area, and you start to lose muscle tone. So you can still have sleep apnea, before before the menopause, but if you have, it'll get worse, or you may not have had it through the menopause and just develop it. Often you can think, snoring, as your snoring got worse, or has it only just started since you've been menopausal? So this is really the biggest cause in ladies, through this period. It's all to do with those dreaded estrogen and progesterone levels. If anything I've said today, if you do suspect, that you snore or whatever, please contact us at the charity. So this was, sorry, I'm clicking, it's made me a bit trigger happy on this mouse. So, could some of the symptoms of menopause be mistaken, or be an overlap of undiagnosed sleep apnea? So, I can go back to them if you want me to, but we went through that long list, or anyone can contact us if you want this slide presentation. We're happy to give it to anybody if it helps. But in 2007, there's been quite a lot of studies. You'll be able to search for them yourself on good old Google. But I've picked this one because in 2017, this study was released. And the Mayo Clinic helped with this as well by getting their own patients, 1,691 women actually, completing the questionnaires. Out of these women, these were in the menopausal age group, I should have said, 25, almost, it was 24.9 actually, but almost 25% were classified in the intermediate and high risk categories for obstructive sleep apnea. This part of the study interests me a lot because it says an important observation to the results of this study was the fact that women reporting severe hot flashes in midlife were at higher risk for sleep apnea. In fact, almost twice as high than in women with mild or no hot flushes. So this was my thoughts. Could this be why a lot of ladies already treated for sleep apnea don't complain a lot of nighttime hot flashes, me included, as they're already treated for the sleep apnea. Just an interesting theory, because there's a lot of research still needed into sleep, and no doubt into menopause. So, bring my finger on this. So, just before, I've got this on a piece of paper, because obviously sleeping can be a problem, and as we've just talked about, with hot flashes. Now, if you go onto our website, which is Hope to Sleep, it's the number 2, you'll see it up there, hope2sleep.co.uk, and you will see some articles, and there's one article which is called Tips for Sleeping on Hot Nights. Well, this is really referring to, obviously, we always repost this article in the summer, but those who are suffering from hot flashes, it might help, because there are tips that myself and our chairman, Samantha Backway, who's a sleep specialist nurse herself, gives to her own patients. Because for those of us on CPAP, it can get worse because we've got a mask on our face. But even when you don't, keeping the curtains or blinds drawn during the day, that keeps the bedroom cool. Creating a through draft by opening windows at the front and back, that can often help. Hanging a damp sheet in front of the open window, that can give a cool breeze. Fans, yeah, they can help. Cotton sheets are obviously better than anything, satiny or man-made, in the same way that, silky nightwear can tend to cause sweating as well. Also bear in mind that sometimes it's the pillow that you're sleeping on. A lot of these man-made pillows actually do create heat. Memory foam as well. You will see now there's a lot of adverts for cooling memory foam. Well, memory foam's quite hot, whatever they say. Things like bamboo pillows, they're all more expensive, of course. When it's the heat waves, the real bad heat waves, we've even said, if you've got the room, if you've got a chest freezer, pop your duvet or bed in a bag before bedtime. Lots of water, by the way, and this would be the same, all year round. Drink lots of water during the day to keep you hydrated. Turning off unnecessary electrical devices, especially those things, like our mobiles and things like that, charging by the side of the bed, because they do create quite a lot of heat. What else? Yeah, hot water bottle full of water and then put it in the freezer. That can be good as well. A cold shower before bed can help. But I'll tell you what, I've never had a cold shower in my life because I don't. I can't even get to the swimming bath if it isn't hot. If you're using sheet or duvet, place your feet outside. Actually, that's actually funny, that, because before I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, I always used to have cold feet. So it's that will cool you down usually if you just hang your feet out of the covers. This is during a heat wave, obviously, and heat rises, so sleeping downstairs. But I'm sure you've looked, those are just a few of our tips that we give to people. But what I hope, out of tonight is that there's going to be people listening today, or know other people, if they want to share the recording later, that have obviously got, and they're really struggling with the menopause, and look at the symptoms that we've already said. Could there be a crossover? Are you snoring? Do you wake up panting for breath? Sometimes you wake up and your heart's racing. if you think you're in that category, you know, I can't tell you how important it is to get checked out. Here in Hull, well, in fact, anywhere, what you would do is contact your GP for a referral to your local NHS clinic. But here in Hull, it's the lung function department at Castle Hill that do the sleep studies. And all they do is they give you some equipment that you bring home with you. And it's just got oxygen. Actually, we've got some here at the charity. And what you do is it's just got a pulse oximeter on your finger, which is measuring your oxygen to see if your oxygen levels are dipping. And you'll have a cannula around your nose, which is checking on your breathing. And here's Natalie. Thank you, Natalie. So this is ours. And that just goes round your, round your waist here. You know, that just goes here. And then we've got the pulse oximeter here. That's it. That would go on your finger. You'll have used these before at the doctor's surgery or the hospital. And like I say, a cannula which will go around your nose. It looks like Natalie's brought me one of those. So, and then you would just sleep with that. It's not as long as that, you turn it off. And you would just sleep with that as well during the night. And it's checking your breathing. And there's only a sleep study that can tell you whether you're stopping breathing. When I went for my results at Castle Hill Hospital, my husband said, "Do you want me to come with you?" I went, no, because it's another false alarm. I haven't got sleep apnea. And I nearly died when the doctor said, it's not just mild, yours is severe. I went, no. I told him he'd got the wrong patient. But he assured me it was me and it was my address. And really, that was the start of me living life again. Because although at the time I was really shocked and I couldn't believe how could I have this severe sleep apnea. The only times I'd seen it was in men and always big men, you know. And when I came to terms with it and, you know, got onto the treatment, I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe I'd lived like that all my life without knowing I was stopping breathing. I don't know if my daughter's hopped on this call because I noticed she shared it. So if you're there, Katie, my daughter's a nurse now. She is the only person that ever said to me, she shouted from her bedroom, "Mum, we've got sleep apnea." And I thought, what has she been reading now? Because she's wanted to be a nurse at the time. She wasn't then. So I thought she'd been reading things on Google and I totally ignored her. 5 years later, I got diagnosed and she was right. And like I said to you, 32 times an hour, I was stopping breathing. Asked my husband how many times I was stopping breathing, and never ever seen it happen once because it's not something you see. Sometimes you can. Obviously, awake in a chair during the day you can, but a lot of this is in the depth of the night, and when your bed partner's asleep as well. Sometimes they're aware of it. I will say that more women notice it in the men than men notice it in the women. Anyway, so like I say, if you do suspect it, contact your GP. Now, there's a lot of very well educated GPs, but some GPs might say, well, you're not fat enough. That's because, it's, the typical profile has always been overweight. You do not have to be overweight to have sleep apnea. So if you have any problems whatsoever, please contact us. You can reach us, the number I've put here, that's a charity line. You'll find it all on the website there, or you can contact us by email, support@2sleep, remember the number 2.co.uk. We got the name of the charity from our surname, actually. It came in handy. We've got premises that I'm in at the moment this evening, and we're at 85 Ing Road, which is on the, if you all remember Beck's Bites, We're in the premises where Beck's Bites was, which is corner of James Reckitt, so Mallet Lambert's, just a short walk down the road, right near East Park. So you're welcome to come and see us during office hours. You're welcome to book an appointment. You don't charge for anything. All support is through our charity too. The only things we ever charge for, as you'll see on the website, is products that some people need to sleep better, and those who are already treated for sleep apnea. So in summing up, untreated sleep apnea is serious. Please don't ignore the snore. So one of the things, and if as a result of this, and obviously these things don't happen overnight, but if you do get diagnosed with sleep apnea, we'd love to hear from you. Later, you might be struggling with the menopause now. Have any of the symptoms improved? And this is where a lot more research is needed. And this is something we want to do as well. As a charity, we do already participate in a lot of research programs. But anyway, I hope you found it interesting. Like I said, I'm not the expert on menopause itself, and I was very, very lucky with mine. But was this because I was treated for sleep apnea? You'll never know, except, it is something you hear about from other ladies, because we're actually supporting roughly around 17,000 people now. And we would be hearing a lot more if it was really prevalent in ladies already diagnosed. And I will actually add, even though that's not why we're talking here, pregnancy is another time. Shifting the hormones and the weight gain during pregnancy. And again, that's probably why I had such a bad time with postnatal depression, because unbeknown to me, my consultant said I was sleeping up to 4 hours a night out of 8. So I was already sleep deprived. And then, of course, you've got the baby and you're, up through the night. No wonder, hindsight's very good, isn't it? So anyway, any help whatsoever, and I'll take some questions if anyone's got any. But you know where we are. We'll just, look us up online, hope2sleep.co.uk.